live on YouTube, and I look very bright and angelic. My goodness, we are here for the Star Wars The Last Jedi breakdown, review, and live Q&A. That's right, for the second time in 2 days, we are live on YouTube. David, one of your hosts, the other two hosts of the show, Beyond the Blast Doors, Jesse Buck, David Gilbert.
Hello.
And it's nice to be here. We are here.
Yes.
3 days after the release, the theatrical release, and now we can talk about anything and everything we want. So just to make it clear, we are going to be talking about spoilers. We're going to go from the very beginning of the film to the very end of the film, and we're going to talk about what we like, what we don't like, but we're not holding anything back. So if you have not watched the movie and you absolutely do not want to be spoiled, this is your last chance, because from here on out, it is going to be very heavy with the spoilers. So right now what we're doing is getting ready. David is on the Facebook, and he's also going to be on our YouTube channel monitoring the live chat. So be sure during the video, during this live stream, that you are putting in your questions, and we will answer those live on this stream. And be sure, if you're watching us on the rewind, to comment down below. Over the next couple of hours, next couple of days, we're definitely going to be commenting on there with you and continuing on the conversation. So be sure you stay with us there. This is Sunday right now, and I've seen this movie now 3 times. David, you've seen it 3 times.
3 times.
Okay, so you did not see it in the last 6 hours.
No, I took a nap.
Okay, I thought there was a chance that he was going to go off and try and one-up me.
There was a very good chance.
And then, Jesse, how many times have you seen it?
I've seen it twice, so you guys are one-upping me at the moment, but I've got plans to see it at least 2 or 3 more times. So.
I have to go at least twice more. So we're going to get very close to that 7 number that I mentioned a few days ago. Real quick, before we jump in, let's first do this, because Jesse was not with us on our spoiler-free breakdown that we did a couple of days ago. So, Jesse, I would like you to take me back to the moment where The Last Jedi ended, your first time seeing it, and what were the thoughts, what were the emotions?
There was a lot of emotions there, because knowing, the funny thing is, I knew as soon as I got home I was going to reconnect to the internet, because what I did was, to avoid any spoilers, was I completely unplugged for the most part. I was avoiding Twitter, I avoided streaming and everything, so I went into this completely free of any idea, so it was fantastic on that part. I mean, I was left with a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions.
And we get to talk about those questions on this video.
But overall, I give the movie 10 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
And when you add it into the whole picture, we're talking the whole story arc, it has purpose. It has meaning. There's a reason that this movie was the way it was. And yeah, some people aren't going to agree with it, but it was what happened in this movie is important. And for me, my favorite moment was Luke looking off into the sunset.
Well, we're going to get into that in about 45 minutes, so let's not rush it. But yes, we do have some people watching live with us right now. We have some people in the live chat. David, who's in there? What are they saying?
We got Comicholics with us, and it says there's, you'd have to say, meaning plural, 6.5 out of 10 for the movie. Who's with you, Comicholics?
It would be Wayne and Jess.
Oh, Wayne and Jess.
Wayne and Jess. They're good friends of the podcast.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, Wayne was texting me earlier saying that he finally got to see the movie with Jess, and he has some mixed reviews, and I'm sure we'll hear about that as we kind of go through the movie. But if you like comic books, I'm going to go ahead and plug them. Comicholics is a channel that has just blown up in the last 6 months. They do great haul videos. They do great giveaways. If you like comics, be sure you sub them up and check out their latest video. I know that they just had their Sunday haul come out today. Anyone else in the chat right now?
Nope, that's it for the moment.
So then I say we just get started, and as we go through the film, we're going to be jumping back into the live chat, answering any questions that you might have. So let's start it. Lucasfilm comes up on the screen a long time ago. It's feeling right. We get that opening crawl.
Nothing gets my feels going than seeing that great big Star Wars with the music just booming in your ears.
And was it a good crawl, considering the fact that we knew this movie takes place seconds after the end of The Force Awakens? Was it a good crawl?
Yeah, definitely. That opening sequence and everything was yeah, I was just like, that was for me. It's like game on, like kind of thing. Like that's the moment to where it's just like I'll cut somebody if they ruin this moment. You know,
So
like,
if their cell phone goes
yeah.
off.
So the lettering comes down, and if you've seen the movie already, I mean, we're assuming everyone has at this point because that's why you clicked on the Spoilers Talk live Q&A video stream. Crawl goes up, and then we are tilting down, and it feels like the start of any regular Star Wars movie. And we see this large cruiser with a couple smaller ships nearby, and we start zooming in towards this ship. And it's like you're going down. I mean, it is a quick shoot down towards the ship. You think you're going to go inside? No, you're actually going past that ship. All these transports coming up from the planet Dakar, and it looks like the Resistance is trying to flee the base because the First Order has tracked down their base. They're evacuating, and within, what, a minute, we have First Order ships coming in out of hyperspace and trying to attack our very small band of Resistance
Very small.
fighters.
Surprisingly small.
Resistance fighters who, as the film progresses, loses the title Resistance and become the Rebels again. So I thought that was interesting. Very quickly here, the Resistance banner has left us. We are showing the former Rebel insignia in some locations throughout the movie. So I thought that was... What do we think of the first 10-minute block where the Resistance is trying to pull out, the First Order shows up? We start with Poe Dameron and BB-8 in the single X-Wing fighter. The First Order is baffled because they're like a single fighter, and there's this like troll moment where Poe Dameron is asking for General Hux, and he's like, is he there? And General Hux does this long tangent of how he's going to destroy the First Order, and Poe Dameron's like,
okay, I'll hold.
Yeah, okay, I'll hold.
Yeah.
Still waiting.
Yeah, like
How did that humor work for you guys?
that did, because it was expected out of Poe. You know, when it's from like maybe an older existing character, you know, like, just hypothetically, just bear with me. If like say, you know, this came from like if Leia did this,
If
it wouldn't make sense. If Akbar did it, it wouldn't make sense. But this is a younger, cocky, you know, pilot and everything. Yeah, I think
it's definitely consistent with the comedic tones that he had at the beginning of The Force Awakens with, you know, who talks first? I talk first, you talk first, I can't hear you with the breathing apparatus. Like, that seemed very consistent. It just kind of, to me, I did feel it was a little jarring to get right there at the beginning, but I got over that quickly because he hits that 5th rocket on the back of his X-Wing fighter, and he starts taking out the Dreadnought, which kind of sounds like a locomotive, Dave. And David, we've talked about how if there's one thing that has never been questioned about this new trilogy, love the look of the First Order stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This Dreadnought, it's different from seeing it in that still image that we showed off 3 months ago on the show. In person, how did you interpret that Dreadnought?
I thought it was pretty badass.
Yeah.
And I'm always a fan of the evil ships in the show. To me, they're just so much more well put together, more menacing looking. And right off the bat, I just got tingly all over looking at this ginormous behemoth of a ship, which later gets, you know, dwarfed again by Snoke ship.
Right.
Well, I tell you, like, yeah, and the ship looks great and everything, but like, what happens, what it's leading up to, for me, being a history major and a huge World War II buff, the Resistance bombers. Okay, like I wasn't like when I first saw the teasers for these, and you know we had that Lego set, you know teaser image drop. I was like, but actually seeing them on film and everything, like they like immediately I'm thinking B-17 bomber kind of thing, like the way it was set up and everything, and I mean I thought it was just like a very kind of like powerful sequence there, you know, filming and everything, and it was just like, man, these things are just getting shredded, like.
Right. So Poe goes through, clears the cannons off the top of this Dreadnought, and in comes the bombers, like you're talking about, the Resistance bombers, and the goal is they have to drop the payload on top of this thing to take it down, and this is after Poe has already been ordered by Leia to pull back. Pull back. We're gonna hit to hyperspace. He turns off the comlink. He brings in the bombers. They start to make their attack run. Something goes wrong. When the lead ship has its bombs activated, it gets crashed into by a flailing TIE fighter, and that takes out 3 of the lead bombers right off the bat. And so we get the space battle plays out, which was nice because We didn't really get a space battle in Force Awakens. It was small, but we got it.
This was a very intense, just opening.
And it happened so quickly, too. But then we find out that there's only one bomber left. There's only one of these bombers left. It's kind of tragic how it goes down, but we finally, the payload drops, the character inside, plus the ship itself gets consumed in the explosions that kind of triggers the destruction of this dreadnought. We later find out that that Resistance fighter is the sister to Rose, a character we meet in about 15 minutes. But the dreadnought ship goes down, but you kind of see what is already going to be a central storyline of this movie, probably leading into the next as well, which is Poe's desire to be a leader and to really take it right into the face of the First Order. But it's learning the balance between being a hero and being a leader. You know, you take down the ship, but look at all the loss of life, and that's kind of a conflict that arises between he and Leia.
Well, I mean, even when you combine it with everything else there, they lost a lot of their squadron, a lot of their fleet, trying to destroy Starkiller Base. So I think that's really, when you view, I think the best way, honestly, to view this movie is you watch The Force Awakens before you go see it. You know, or if you're going to see it again, go ahead and do that. Because, like, this really, for one, like you mentioned, it's straight up, like, maybe not even 2 hours, maybe a day, you know, worth of time between the end of that movie and the beginning of this one. There's a like, that's the thing, is those bombers got shredded simply because they didn't have a large fighter escort. And you look at it, there's like, maybe you've got Poe, I see at least maybe 2 A-Wings, a couple X-Wings, you know, where they lost a lot of ships in The Force Awakens. I mean, imagine if they would have had all those ships, you know, to protect these bomber groups.
Right.
I think the result would have been different. But yeah, you know, Poe is kind of at that learning point where, you know, he's cocky. He wants that win, you know. He wants that big soccer goal kind of thing.
Right.
And,
still, though, very consistent with the character that we saw in Force Awakens. Very consistent with the character that, on the timeline, you see, like, what? I mean, it's got to be sooner than a day cycle, because it's like, I feel like Starkiller Base just finished, and the First Order was able to hunt them down. Like, it had to be, I don't know, the time jump, because, you know, when we go and we first see Rey and Luke, I mean, it's her walking up again.
Well, the scarier aspect of this, because when my first impression of the First Order was majority of their army and whatnot was on Starkiller Base.
Right.
Okay, and then when that crawl comes down the screen, you know, it's like, and they're planet hopping. They're taking over planets.
Yeah, legions.
Like,
Snoke is commanding legions.
And it's just like, okay, so this was only like maybe a portion of this entire empire that he's commanding.
I'd like to think Starkiller had to be the bulk of it, though.
You know, so for them to rally back up and everything, and be able to, I mean, it's just kind of like, man, like the power kind of thing.
Absolutely. You know? Before we get to Rey and before we get to Rey and Luke, there is another returning character, Finn, that we get reintroduced to. But before we do that, how's the live chat going? Anybody in the live chat?
Yeah, we have Pop.Comics joining us.
Hey.
Hasn't been able to see the movie yet. It's going to go see it this week. Randy D's, good friend.
Dude, Randy's on there?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Randy right now is watching football. He's supposed to be watching football with the in-laws. So I'm not sure how this is going. We cannot create strife with Randy. You know, Randy's wife, Jordan, is the person responsible for the Beyond the Blast Doors logo.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's shimmering behind us.
And it shimmers behind us. So, yeah. So, Randy, don't get yourself in trouble, but be sure to... He posts like a 95 Theses on our Facebook page about what he liked and disliked. So we might have to pull that up. But if you're live with us, Randy, just go ahead and start typing in that live chat, man.
He thinks that the time jump was more of a day for the space battle stuff, but within a couple minutes for Rey and Luke. He doesn't think that they necessarily had to run at the same time. Yeah. We also have, I'm going to butcher this name, Santino Soprano. Hello from Argentina. Well, hello from the Midwest.
Dude, this is going international.
Awesome.
How thrilling.
Yep.
And what did he was saying hi?
Yep, just hello with an exclamation point. So.
Hey, we like excitement here.
Just again, caution, this is a lot of warning, spoilers.
A lot of spoilers, yeah.
So if you're really not wanting all the spoilers, That's the thing.
You know what you're getting yourself into when you're clicking on a video.
It's in the title. You know what you're getting.
Anybody else in there?
Monk's Den just popped in to say hi. Hey,
Wonderful.
Monks, how's it going?
What's up?
And that's about all for the moment.
All right, cool. Well, I'm sure we'll have more guests popping through. Have we heard anything lately from Comicaholics? I thought I saw them pop up a few times.
Nope, not for a couple minutes.
Okay, cool. Well, then let's go ahead and just talk about how we get reintroduced to Finn, which is kind of annoying to me. But we get Finn in the tube, and he just miraculously wakes up. He pops out. He's in a Bacta suit. I'm assuming he's not in a Bacta tank.
That's what I'm assuming.
The tank.
Yeah. I'm with you.
You say that loud.
I want the tank.
Yeah.
I want the great big blue tank with them floating around in it. Not this weird bubbly suit that springs. I mean, that's just poor design right there.
He rolls out of bed. It's leaking all over the place. Poe and BB-8 are back from this battle scene, and they have a quick exchange, and they see Finn just kind of walk into the opening, into the corridor, and he's like licking all over. It's a comedic moment, again with comedic moment. And the moment I do like in the conversation is you gotta have 1,000 questions. First thing out of his mouth, where's Rey? And that takes us to Act 2.
Yeah. I thought that was a really nice touch.
I thought that was a very smooth transition.
Yeah.
I did really like that transition because you're trying to very quickly. Rian Johnson is tasked with having to identify where everyone is at this point. It is pretty immediate after The Force Awakens. This is what the Resistance is doing. That means this is where Leia and Poe are. Finn is back quick. I really didn't think. I thought Finn was going to be in comatose for a little bit longer of a period. I thought that would not have been so sudden, nonetheless. And also, we got to know where our possible Jedi in training is. So it was cool to see Rey walking back up to Luke. And David, I'll start with you on this one. We've been waiting for 2 years.
I haven't been listening.
You haven't been listening?
I'm talking with the friends in the chat. Comicaholics is... Wayne said that he did a scene with John Boyega in the movie Detroit.
That is true.
Person. And Randy's commenting that the whole problem was that there was no cohesive team running the story. Wes Braswell has joined us. Hey, Wes.
Hey, Wes. What's up, man?
How's it going?
So, yeah.
Santino Soprano didn't like it.
Okay, well, that's... Okay, so... All right, it seems pretty clear where our live viewing audience is right now, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But what did you think of Rey walking up? We've been waiting for 2 years to see if Luke takes the lightsaber. What does he do with the lightsaber? Does he just skewer Rey?
I loved it.
What happened?
So he takes the lightsaber and he throws it behind him. And I thought that was beautiful.
I thought it sucked.
I know you did, because you really want him to ignite the lightsaber and stand there holding it.
I wanted a breeze to come and start blowing his hair and his robes to be flying, and it's like the Messiah's return. But it's
but it's the little details. I mean, it's I didn't catch it on my first viewing, but when she gives it to him and he's kind of holding it. This will sound weird, but there's actually emotion being told in how he's handling it.
Well, and it's in his face.
He's not happy to see her, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, he's been handed a piece of his history, and obviously a little bit of painful history for him, because the last time he saw this thing, it was attached to his hand. So I mean, it's
still wondering where that hand is.
Yeah, some small part of me kind of where I'm waiting for there's a hand to go with.
There's probably a porg gnawing on the hand right now.
Anyway, so
but I cut David off though. Did you have anything you wanted to say about him flipping it over?
I just thought it was great.
Yeah.
It was a good response. It was unexpected, and I mean, he could have either gotten pissed or he could have been how exciting, but instead he was just indifferent, threw it behind him and walked away.
Do you think that was almost like a nod to just all the hype that the fan base was having in the last 2 years? And it's just a simple over. I feel like the message could have been better communicated, because I don't know. Maybe that's just how discouraged Luke is in this. But I would have rather seen him have it, and then he just drop it and walk.
Yeah, I guess I think there's the comedic sense about him talking. I'm not gonna say I didn't enjoy that.
Yeah.
I did find that somewhat humorous.
And later with the porgs almost, pressing the button to light up the porg.
I think, yes, that scene would have been a little bit more intense had he been holding it, and then he just kind of just let it fall to the ground and walked away, kind of thing. Like, I think that would have.
See, to me, that would have signified more like defeat, and not more like whatever.
So, I mean, I guess there was some amount of defiance, just throwing it over the shoulder. Possibly he could have been doing it to maybe judge her character.
Yeah, I think
You
so.
know?
I think my problem with the first 10 minutes that we get with Luke and Octu is, all it is leave me alone. I don't want to be bothered. Grumble, grumble, grumble. And to me, it only intensifies what a lot of people said about Luke in the original trilogy, is that he was so whiny. And I really don't want a whiny, grumpy Luke. And that's going to be, I think, a recurring theme that I share as we progress through this discussion. But what I do like is, like the fishing scene. So basically, Rey is just like following Luke around Octu, trying to convince him to get back in the game and teach her things. So she like follows him around on his daily routine for 3 or 4 days, or 2 or 3 days, or maybe it's just like an afternoon. I don't know. We're assumed to believe it's been a couple days.
I'm gonna assume that it's at least been 2-3 days, and in some ways I felt like it was training.
In a way, so she's following him around on the island, and you're like, I just want to see Luke Skywalker do something really cool and badass. So he's walking to this cliff. There's like this pole sticking out of the ground. He drops his bag and he just leaps on this thing, and he starts. It's like almost like he pole vaulted, and he's like pole vaulting through the air, and he just like softly lands.
See, I didn't need that scene.
I thought it was kind of cool because it was like
he's spearfishing from like on top of a cliff kind of thing.
It's showing you how Skywalker has survived in exile. Like the fact, so I remember it was like our second or third episode when we had started Beyond the Blast Doors, and there was this photo of this like really weird looking alien that we got, and we've learned it was on Octu, and we didn't know its purpose. Well, it turns out that it has like these 4 large looking breast udders. Okay? They look like
I love
breasts.
it. Like, I love and hate this scene in a good way, because it's just
So he goes down to this thing, he squeezes out the green milk, and he just chugs it, and he just looks at Rey like, look what I've become. Like, it's just like, this is what he's dealing with. And then, he has to spear hunt from like 75 feet above to get his fish for dinner. I don't know.
Were those really udders though, Dave?
I don't even want to go down that path that leads to the dark side. Leads to evil thoughts. But for as much as I don't like this path they've taken Luke, I like how they've handled Luke on this path. If you're going to have him in exile, and you're going to have him so discouraged by the Jedi and tapping out of the Force, I want to see him having to like grovel to live daily as he waits to die. You know what I'm saying? We return, I guess, to the Resistance up in space, and they're trying to still flee the First Order that continues to bombard them. How do you feel about them as they're preparing for the First Order's attack?
I think you're skipping a little bit here, because, obviously...
Well, I kind of went too far into the whole Octu thing, so I'm bringing it back. So let's talk about how the Resistance is kind of gearing up before that First Order attack.
We escaped, like this was success, and then they get away, and boom, we get slammed with Snoke's capital ship.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen some, we saw some, teasers of this and everything. But I mean, I was like, oh man, this thing is like freaking huge. Like, this is like, if you took like maybe 6 Super Star Destroyers and like glued them together and whatnot, that's kind of how like I felt like size wise.
Well, we know that
massive.
We know that 3.5 months ago we got an image that basically, or it wasn't that long. It was a couple months ago. That image they dropped on StarWars.com. It said the thing was like 19 of the Super Star Destroyers. Those executors from Empire Strikes Back.
It's like 2 miles long or something, wasn't it?
No, that's a standard Star Destroyer.
Well, just just the overall size was just like, man, like this thing is basically, it was a mobile base of operations. Like,
oh yeah,
so this
60-kilometer wingspan.
60-kilometer wingspan. So that kind of gives you the thing dwarfs the 5 or 6 destroyers in the space.
Yeah, definitely.
37.2 miles.
It's just one of those things where, at that point, I'm already going like, okay, where did the Empire get the money to build this, or was this something that was built? And because I mean, when you add everything into the rest of the story and everything, that's where a lot of my questions are coming from. It's just like, okay, what Palpatine had this plan. We know this from the Aftermath trilogy. Was this built, behind the scenes kind of thing? Like now I'm at that point where I'm wanting more for the expanded universe, and it was like I had to reel it back in and kind of get back into the moment because it was like, okay, there's something's up, like, and it's just like, okay, wait a minute, they followed them through Lightspeed. But I also remember they did this in Rogue, essentially in Rogue One. They were able to track Leia's diplomatic ship, and everything. So I think it was kind of like existing experimental technology that I think the First Order kind of perfected.
Yeah, I don't want to go too much in that because
too deep on the tech level there.
No, it's just I mean that would be just a lot of speculating.
Yeah.
I do like this notion that so they come out of hyperspace. Leia realizes that they've been tracked. Finn's now conscious. They decide that a plan needs to be made. Poe Dameron, who's just been demoted for being reckless and killing off a lot of the fleet, is given permission to go blow all that stuff up.
And how many damn times have I said that he's a liability? He keeps blowing shit up.
You say that every chance you get.
I do.
Including right now.
Yes.
But, fair enough. So he goes and starts running for the bay. We know that we have Supreme Leader Snoke now in space, his capital ship, all these Star Destroyers. And Kylo Ren has a moment with Snoke that we haven't talked about. So I guess we should talk about that. His first meeting with Snoke, it leads him into the space battle. What was your thoughts on that first scene where we see him in the elevator, he's walks into the Grand Throne, and Snoke is not really encouraging. He just kind of like belittles Kylo the entire time.
Yeah, it was it was definitely a very tense moment. I mean, obviously, we know that Snoke's Force ability. A lot of people were questioning, well, is he actually a Force user? And that was confirmed very quickly when he slams what's his name? God, I'm drawing blanks.
Well, he slams Hux when he's just a hologram.
Yeah, and it's just like. For one, I laughed at that because it's just like the noise that Hux made when he hit the ground. I know that's terrible, but it was hard. I was just like, yes, this little weasel deserved that, kind of thing. But
yeah, well, he's a weasel in this movie. He was Hitler in the first movie. But he's now just a beating bag for every First Order villain.
Yeah. So I mean, the scene that you're talking about. I mean, okay, so I mean, this is the first that we're essentially seeing Kylo Ren or Ben Solo. And he seems to be doing really well, despite his wounds, and I'll get to that because I think that kind of explains...
Well, that's the whole premise of this meeting, is the whole fact is that Snoke is there to taunt him. He's asking about his wound. He says it's nothing, and then the mocking begins, which ultimately leads to Snoke just calling him a scared boy in a mask, a child behind a mask.
And, well, this is the weird thing about it, is like... Kylo felt that he had to kill Han Solo in order to become stronger in the dark side. He does it, and basically Snoke goes, no, all you did was split your soul. You weakened yourself kind of thing. And like, it's just belittles him. Obviously sends him into one of his... He looks like he's getting ready to throw a temper tantrum, and we get that awesome Force lightning kind of like up out of the ground kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's just like a really kind of like, okay, yeah, Snoke is a very, very, very powerful Force user, and it's established early on.
I think it was a good meeting to set the tone. David visually of Snoke, what do we think? Because we're not seeing this massive projection of Snoke in this movie. We're seeing about an 8 foot, 9 foot tall being.
I feel like he's not that tall. Is that just me?
He's tall, but I don't know if he's like gigantic.
I don't feel like he's 8 foot tall.
He's said to be like 8 foot tall.
Okay.
David can pull it up, but he's said to be like 8 or 9 foot tall.
He's kind of like hunched over, but I mean, he really didn't seem that tall to me.
Well, he's super disfigured. But like, what do we think of that look?
His head was definitely bigger. I mean, I liked it.
Yeah.
Andy Serkis just does a phenomenal job.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He has. Why doesn't he have a damn Academy Award yet?
He should have had it from Lord of the Rings. But the thing about, I think that the voice acting of Andy Serkis takes his character to a whole new level, because just the visual of this battered, maybe humanoid in this gold robe, to me, no matter I don't know, it seemed a little extravagant to me, and I thought that since we first saw those initial renderings. But I think the best takeaway from this first meeting, though, is the new tone of, oh, hey, the graphic, is the new tone that we get of the relationship between Snoke and Kylo. That Kylo is being manipulated, he's being used and abused, and we see very quickly that he's not okay with it because he pitches a Kylo tantrum.
We get a little bit of insight of what Snoke was wanting out of Kylo, heir apparent to Darth Vader. You know, and that's one of the things that, you know, he's like, I was wrong, kind of thing. And I mean, I think, yeah, he's like, okay, here's a pissed off kid. I'm gonna keep making him angry, kind of thing.
He's about 1.5 feet taller than the rest of them. Is all I can find on Google.
I'm pretty sure he's like 8 foot, 9 foot tall.
You know, I mean, Snoke does not like the mask, obviously, and you know, that's where we get the shattered helmet.
I don't know if it's more of a mask thing or if it's just the fact that he's disappointed in Kylo because he wants him to be better.
Well, he says, take that ridiculous thing off.
Do you think that Johnson filmed that scene just to continue to destroy the things that Abrams threw in that movie?
I don't think it's a thing where he wanted to... I don't think it's a thing that Rian Johnson went out of his way and said, J.J. Abrams created this, I hate this, it's done. Mm-hmm. But I think there are some things for the story that he wanted to tell that just didn't play a big factor. I mean, there are a couple of things that... I think of Rey's parentage. I think of maybe the relationship between Kylo and Rey. I think of the treatment of Luke early on in the film. Those were things that the fan base have been speculating on intensely for the last 2 years. He knew these would be big things. Phas was another thing that he handled in this movie, where, yeah, he just basically cast them aside. But I don't think it was the fact that JJ created this, I'm done with it. I think it's, this character isn't, the lifespan just isn't there. You know, Snoke is not, Snoke to me always kind of did seem like not the ultimate baddie. Mm-hmm. Like there might be, I think there's someone better than what Snoke can bring. And I think Rian Johnson clearly felt the same way because, well, I guess we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, so, you know, obviously, you know, this moment leads up to Kylo having a fit in the elevator. He smashes his helmet, you know, and that's basically the end of his, you know, I want to be a Darth Vader wannabe kind of thing. Like, I kind of really feel like that put that, you know, to an end.
And then it's, get my shuttle ready.
Yeah, and then that gets us to, boom, they jump out, that moment that they come out of, you know, hyperspace and everything. I mean, Kylo is already in the air. Like, he's a step ahead of the Resistance, too, you know? Because, I mean, they're completely off guard on this, and, you know, you're talking about, you were mentioning how, like, Poe is running to the flight, you know, deck and everything,
mm-hmm.
and, I mean, Kylo knew right where the sweet spot was. He essentially crippled that ship by taking out the hangar. And
we get to see it, like, we saw a hint of it in one of the TV spots, or maybe, I think it was the trailer, too. He's a damn good pilot. Yeah. He knows how to zip around in that TIE silencer, which was a really fun sequence. I liked how they shot that. I don't get the design. The design of the Resistance cruiser was perfect to be infiltrated by Kylo. You know what I'm saying? Like, he could fly into the ship, he could fire the missiles. It just seemed like, okay, this ship design was so that the plot could move forward. That's convenient.
Yeah, I did think that was a little bit odd how the... I'm not sure what you would call, you know, but it's just like, here's this long stretch where the ships fly and exit, and it's just like, yeah, that's a pretty odd shot, because, you know, in previous Star Wars movies on the cruisers, it's usually either it's on the bottom that, you know, like the TIE fighters come out of the bottom of the...
Yeah, so we're talking about the ship hangars, and so, like, I think of, like, the Republic cruisers, where, like, the top would come up, and there would be, like, a runway, and the ships would get housed in the sides, okay? So for this Resistance cruiser, they've got, like, an oval opening. You go in, you get your landing pad, and then you have, like, this side hangar where all the ships are. Well, Kyle was able to swoop from behind the ship, slide inside, blow up all the ships inside the hangar. As Poe is just about to get inside, he gets thrown back with all the shrapnel from this missile explosion. To me, it seemed convenient. But I think that was the whole... maybe that's just the whole plan of the First Order. It was so well known that Kylo knew how these ships were designed, and the Resistance clearly didn't know that they were being tracked at that time through through hyperspace.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a devastating blow kind of thing. It kind of makes you wonder, well, if the ship had maybe been designed differently, because I mean, like in Return of the Jedi, you know, it looks like this is a newer Mon Calamari, you know, cruiser and whatnot. The hangar ports were on the side of those ships. And
Called
now,
the Raddus, after Admiral Raddus from Rogue One.
So, like, yeah, it's just one of those things where it baffled me design-wise. It didn't really make too much sense. Because I feel like you're kind of very exposing, you know, kind of defense.
Oh, yeah. I would totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. Go ahead.
I mean, I guess if you were on a head-on battle, I mean, works great kind of thing. But, yeah, I mean, they really, man, I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, you know, not every ship can be built to handle every situation. What's the live chat looking like?
Live chat is filled with comments back and forth. We got Monkston and Santiago Soprano and Sea Lost Comics who are talking about how they wish they could have seen a fight between Luke and Snoke, or a better battle between Luke and Kylo.
Okay.
And Miss Hustle just jumped on. Welcome, Miss Hustle.
Dude, Miss Hustle still hasn't seen the movie yet.
Well, here's her question to her. In what order should she watch the movies when she's never watched them before?
I can answer.
Do we do this now?
I got this one.
Okay.
Okay, so Miss Hustle, this is my biggest advice to you as a huge lore fan.
Oh boy.
You need to watch Episode 1, Episode 2, and then you need to watch the Clone Wars cartoon.
I think we're just doing the movies. Just do the movies.
Well,
just do the movies.
If you're wanting true, you got to go in order, in my opinion, at the very least. So you'd have to go prequels, original, and then the new movies. If you're wanting to go that extra mile, you need to add the Clone Wars in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and Star Wars Rebels, which takes place between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. And also, don't forget about Rogue One in there, which is after Revenge of the Sith, before A New Hope.
See, I'm a real fan of the structure of you watch 4 and 5, you throw it back to 1, 2, and 3, and then you watch 6.
Well, I mean, if you're wanting just straight follow the story kind of thing,
yeah,
you know, that would be my advice.
That's fair.
But
I just don't think the Vader reveal
yeah.
has any gravitas. To me, the Vader reveal has no gravitas if you watch the prequels first.
Yeah.
That's just me. And this movie definitely does not give you a moment that's a bigger deal than the Vader reveal. I remember when that was teased. Was there a moment that was a bigger reveal than the Vader reveal? You know the big moments of this?
I mean, I wasn't alive when the Vader reveal actually happened, so I kind of grew up always knowing Vader was Luke's father.
But the first time you found out, though. Like, I remember being, like, really mad about it. Like, I pouted for, like, a while.
For me, like, this is going to be, like... When I first saw Star Wars, I was 3rd grade, and... You know, I saw A New Hope, and I was like, this is amazing. And my mom was like, well, there's 2 other movies. You know, I'm like, oh, I'd really like to see those. And, you know, she surprised me with, you know, VHS tapes and everything.
Oh, the classics.
Yeah, the classics and everything. And, you know, I watched those. I'd never seen these movies before. I had no idea who Darth Vader was, you know, or anything like that. So, you know, as a little kid, I mean, yeah, it wasn't the same as seeing it on the big screen, obviously. But for me... I'd never seen a Star Wars story. I had no idea what that was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, seeing those characters for the first time was just...
Yeah, I can roll with that.
Like
so I guess so we can move on.
Yeah.
Really, it's up to you, however you want to watch them. I just say you need to get on it, girl. Because, like, this is a great time to be alive, to be a Star Wars fan, because there's so much content being popped up. So whichever trilogy you can get your hands on first, start there. I think that's the best advice that we can really ultimately give you.
I would say the most relevant would be original trilogy into the new films.
I can roll with that. I can definitely roll with that.
Want to throw a shout out? Randy says there's no shocking surprise in the movie. It was too predictable. The Great Legend show.
Whoa! Great Legend's in the house.
Yep.
The Great Legend is live.
We've been. I've been watching more of you, Bud. When David has it on his phone, because I don't know how to YouTube. So I keep staring at the computer, so I'm trying to figure this shit out. Tom, the PT gamer guy, just hopped on.
Nice.
So, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
And he agrees with me on how I would recommend watching the movies, which would be Rogue One, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, So already I like him.
Yeah.
Good conversation. Everybody's throwing out their 2 cents.
No, I think that's awesome, and that's all we want. All we want you to do is be sure you're on there commenting. Just have that conversation while we're having our conversation, and if you want us to see it, that's David. Be like, hey, David, here's a question.
Now, Santiago, our friend from Argentina, says go see 4 and 5 so you learn about Vader, then 1, 2, 3 so you see how Anakin becomes Vader, and then 6 so you see how he ends.
So we see the redemption?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess if we're including all the movies, though, you really need to throw Rogue One in there before A New Hope, I guess. I mean, I guess that would be your first one.
I was thinking, like, if you're really just wanting that true story arc
from
beginning to end, that's how I would recommend watching it. Yeah, it's a lot of work kind of thing, but there's a lot of different ways to watch these movies.
We did it somehow. In like the last 72 hours before going to see The Last Jedi, we watched every one of these movies, which was great. For some, that you guys had to take off work, and that sucks.
I did. It was great.
Oh,
Why does that suck?
Yeah.
Got to sleep in, got to watch Star Wars all day, eat shitty food, drink liquor.
Lucky you.
Yep.
So, any questions or anything else we need to address in live chat before we go next?
No.
So,
plow on.
So where should we plow on next to, David? I mean, do we talk about? Do we go back to Oct 2? Should we go back to Oct 2 and talk about?
I think at this point, yeah. I mean, we've got the hangar blowing up.
Rey finding the tree. That sequence would be next, right?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Okay, so explain that. She's continuing to follow Luke around this island, and then something happens.
And then she gets drawn to the tree.
Okay.
Yep.
By the Force, we're assuming?
Sure.
Okay, great. So, explain that sequence.
Jesse?
Well...
You don't remember the sequence?
I've seen it like 4 times. I remember her being in the tree. I don't remember how she finds the tree.
Okay, so...
When you say in the tree, what does that really mean?
Well, there's like a little hole in the tree. It's like a little hobbit hole.
So how we get to this point is... Rey is following Luke on his daily routine again.
Right.
They're making the trek up this hill, or this mountain, and Rey has basically a Force calling.
Mm-hmm.
And she turns around and she can see, this mist and this tree, and she quits following Luke. Now the interesting thing is that what you later kind of discovered, Luke has essentially shut himself off from the Force, but yet he still senses that she quit following him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when his interest is piqued, because, and that's why when she's standing in there, she's getting ready to touch these texts and everything, and who are you? He's definitely interested. Like, why is this person here? Why did they send her here?
Right.
So, it's just it's one of those things where and for a weird way, it was kind of a powerful moment when he's saying it.
Oh, his intensity, and we should have said this at the very beginning. Mark Hamill's performance in this movie is without a doubt one of the 3 best parts about it.
Yeah. Say what you want, his performance in this movie, and I know there's actually a lot of outside drama concerning the relationship that he had, concerning his thoughts about the character.
Yeah.
But if you put that aside...
Well, he wished Ryan Johnson a happy birthday today, so it doesn't seem like they're too mad at each other.
Well, the thing is I think it helped how he portrayed this character in this film, and it was still, despite what you think, a very powerful performance.
Oh, I don't think anyone can deny that. I mean, I don't think a lot of people knew that there was this performance in Mark Hamill, because it's not the most earth-breaking acting we got in the original trilogy. I'm not slamming him, but it wasn't like...
Well, he did the original trilogy and maybe a few indie films, and then he went into voice acting.
He did some theater stuff too.
He did some TV.
Yeah, yep. I kind of feel like to some degree he did kind of fall off of the Hollywood face and disappear.
I think the best thing for Luke today was Mark Hamill being the Joker in the 90s, because I think he learned to let all of his self-consciousness go with the voice acting. He talks about it a lot, and you can watch any video on YouTube where he's talking about the Joker, how there's you can take any risk because no one can see what you're doing. And I think that now he's back in front of the camera as Luke. I think he had the confidence to just give it all. And it's so apparent in that scene, especially, and credit to Ryan Johnson, just how close he gets in on the eyes and the face and the lighting in this tree sequence.
Well, even the costume.
It's so intense.
Plays in with it too. It's just very, very excellent. moment.
What do you guys think of Paper and Star Wars? They're the first actual books we've gotten in Star Wars, and they've survived like thousands and thousands of years.
I call shenanigans on that one.
You do?
I almost would have rather seen like a bunch of holocrons just hanging out in there.
But there was time before that technology. Is that what we're led to assume?
I think, well, that's the thing is, you know, this island's been around for a long time, and the caretakers have tended to this island. Which poor caretakers. I mean, gosh, you know, we'll get. I guess we'll touch on that here in a little bit.
We'll touch on that in a little bit. We did forget one moment that we need to go back to.
What's that?
Which is?
Well, we mentioned how Kylo takes out the hangar, but we also mentioned the part we did not mention the part where he doesn't kill his mother.
Oh,
His two TIE fighter assistants do.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the moments of real controversy. Again, we talked about how Ryan Johnson was wanting to take risks with this movie. Do we need to address what you're laughing at? Keep going. So Ryan Johnson gives fans a moment that I think a lot of us wanted to see was, what really can Leia do with the Force? We know that she's somewhat sensitive. She has a connection to Luke. She gets sucked out of the cockpit after this explosion. So Kylo doesn't press the trigger. The two TIE fighters behind him does. His escort blows up the cockpit. Admiral Akbar gets shot out with all the other people on the deck. And we see Leia. And so there's all this rubble in space, and it's floating around. There's her corpse. And, you know, I'm thinking, in the movie theater, I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's how I'm going to take her out. Like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we get the hand twitch. And then we get a close-up on her face. And, like, the light and everything, I was like, this is such a beautiful way to kill her off. Like, in tribute to Carrie Fisher, such a beautiful way to kill her off. And then she does, like, Superman / Wicked Witch of the West. She just kind of cruises into the flight deck.
Monkston, why I'm laughing, Monkston, who's on the chat right now, called her Leia Poppins.
Oh, Jesus. It does. Like, she was missing the umbrella, and that is actually very accurate.
I can't believe that we almost skipped this. For me, okay, so leading up to before the bridge is blasted and everything is a very tense moment. You can see the conflict, you know, on Kylo's face, like
as tense as he's putting his lip balm on. Yeah, very aggressive.
And then obviously, whatever it is, he takes his fingers. He's not going to do it. And then yes, his wingmen fly in and blast the hell out of it. And for me, my initial reaction when I saw it was good. Like, and I know that sounds stupid because like she's the princess,
right,
and everything. She's Carrie Fisher, and this is the like. I went into this movie expecting this, and I mean, I was kind of like all a little choked up and everything, you know, at this point.
I was ready to cry,
and then and then they kind of show all the debris, and then we get and I was like, no, I actually got a little upset that she lived. And maybe some people are going to be angry at me at this, but it's just when they've talked about, no, we're not going to put her in the next movie or anything. So what are you going to kill her off screen now, or are you just not going to put her back into the, And it's just like, no, they should have killed her in this movie, and that's how I feel. Whether, fine, if you wanted to bring it, maybe she died in the bed, the hospital bed, or something, but like that's the thing. It's just like I wanted her to die in this movie because, it's
you don't want to see a recast and you don't want to see her CG.
It's too soon. It was great what they did for Rogue One, but I don't want to see a CG.
But if they killed her off, then we wouldn't have gotten the scene at the end with her and Luke.
That's so true.
I mean, it's a pros and cons kind of thing, but it's just one of those things where, if anything, it could have been shot better.
I think it could have been just faster. If here's my thing, is like, it's Star Wars, and so like I know like our science doesn't really apply to Star Wars, but it kind of does. And like the girl was in a tunic, like she's in space that long, her eyes should be burst out of her eye sockets.
Well, the pressure, honestly, for one, you're hitting the cold of space. So she would have been basically flash frozen kind of thing. So, I mean, it leads to the question is, okay, this happened. Did she used a brief moment to maybe make a force bubble kind of shield kind of thing?
Yeah.
On some level. We know that, like, for example, from the Clone Wars cartoon, the one Jedi Master when they're trying, you know, the droids are going from escape pod to escape pod and everything. Potentially, yeah, you know, they can use the Force to kind of survive in deep space. But
I think the concept was awesome, and I totally appreciate that risk. I just think that it could have happened a little faster.
Yeah.
I think the best moment of that sequence was right before it, actually, where she knows that Kylo's on the way, and Kylo knows that she knows that he's on the way, and it's like those wipes from the end of Empire Strikes Back between Vader and Luke. Now it's Leia and Kylo. Wipe on, wipe off, wipe on. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, we definitely need to hit it. We definitely needed to hit that moment. Because that was kind of like that early climax of the movie.
Yeah, it could have been a little bit faster, and I think instead of, you know, Mary Poppins or Superman is, yeah. I feel like that could have looked a little bit different.
If there's one scene I wish they could have done differently, it's that one. Given her a different way to survive if they were going to have
Because that was your one problem with this movie,
that
right?
That was my one problem. It's like, okay, now here's the shenanigans. This is it right here.
Okay, yeah, and that's totally fair, I think. So there's two ways where we can continue this conversation. We can either go back to Octu, or we can talk about the Canto Bight thing. And I don't want to talk about anything to really do with Finn, Canto Bight, and Rose. But we're going to, because we're talking about the entire movie. Do you want to just get that out of the way?
Well, I think we should skip back to where we were at in the tree.
Okay.
We get kind of a serious moment with a brief moment of, you know, humor.
Okay.
You know,
Middle and where you're from, nowhere, and
nobody's from. I do have to say, I did love that line.
Because that humor made sense. Like that was fitting. Because we're not trying to be funny. That was just Luke.
Apparently, Jakku is really just the boonies of the galaxy kind of thing.
It's like the Eureka, Missouri of the galaxy.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, I thought I was from nowhere on dusty, you know, sandy old Tatooine. No, you come from Jakku.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. So.
Junkyard.
Yeah.
So we had that exchange, and then that's where we get the moment where he says, you know, the last Jedi, the Jedi must end. And I thought that was pretty powerful. And then Rey, you know, demands an answer why. Well, she doesn't really get that answer why. But I thought that was a very good. That was an enjoyable back and forth because I wasn't like totally sold on Daisy Ridley's execution of Rey in that movie. Like in The Last Jedi going up, it all seemed very wooden and it almost seemed recited. Like, I'm Rey, I'm with the Resistance, I'm here to find you, I was sent by Leia, we need you to rebuild the Jedi Order and bring hope to the galaxy again. And then like the second time, it was like the same spiel. It's like, you know, we need Luke Skywalker, we need the Jedi Order back. And he's like, no, you don't need Luke. Yeah, we missed this moment too, but, you know, you don't need Luke Skywalker. What do you think I'm going to do? Walk in there with a laser sword and take on the whole First Order, which totally foreshadows the ending of that movie.
Some people actually didn't like that he used the phrase laser sword.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Okay. To me, I think he's very much disgruntled with the Jedi Order.
Yeah, but that sounds like something like what Mark Hamill would say. I don't know if Luke would call it a laser sword at any point.
You know, well,
you think?
it's just one of those things where, you know, he's mocking her.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Oh, totally.
I think that was the purpose of it. Mm-hmm. So, overall, I mean, yeah, that moment, it had the right humor.
Right.
You know, with it.
Yeah, with those two, it was a lot more fitting. Yeah. I bought into it a lot more than I did that opening sequence with Poe and Hux. So the Octu thing plays out. Now we bring it back to where we spoke about how, you know, so she gets called to by the tree. He follows her. He goes off. And then that's when we have to go back to the Resistance, right, and see Finn trying to leave, trying to ditch, right?
Yeah, at this point, the Resistance fleet, they've kind of, okay, you know, well, Leia, she's alive, she's in a coma, this is our situation, and Finn is just, he's concerned about Rey. Mm. Okay, this is different from the Finn that we saw in The Force Awakens, you know, because he was running from, you know, the First Order and everything, just absolutely trying to get away.
Yeah, but, I mean, the last third of that movie, I can make the argument that he was totally all about Rey because he lied to get onto Starkiller Base to find Rey.
So, I mean, towards the end, he's like, this is somebody that I care about and everything. But at the same time, though, the moment that we're getting to is, you know, he's basically, okay, I gotta go after her. He's 100% set on, I don't want her to come back to this. Like, this is a trap. You know, if they jump in here, they're going to obliterate it. Mm. And, you know, so then we meet Rose, you know, who's basically down
She works on the engines.
She's basically an engineer, a tech person, and she's distraught, visibly distraught, and we automatically piece together because she's holding this necklace.
The other half was attached to the
yin yang
right.
kind of symbol thing.
But the other half of that necklace belonged to the resistance fighter that died in the bombing run. We saw that at the beginning of the movie.
So he tries to just kind of move on past, and she detects his presence, hears his presence and everything, and of course you get that whole like nerdy fangirl moment kind of thing. And then she quickly realizes that he's getting ready to jump ship. Like he's got a purpose, and you can identify with Finn on this. But she zaps the hell out of him with the super cattle prod, and that's kind of a funny moment when he wakes up. He's like, "What'd you do to me?" And it's just like, dude, you should know what she zapped you.
I think Rose, and we can get to this at the end, or I'm just going to say it now. I think of all the new characters we got in this movie, I think Rose is the most compelling and the most enjoyable. One of my least favorite new characters in this movie, Holdo. We get Vice Admiral Holdo in this movie, and she comes out. She's said to be the one that makes the most sense to take over now that Leia is kind of out of commission. But it's kind of a wooden performance. The message, the motivational pep talk that she gives, I felt uneasy. Like, I felt like Poe. I was like, I don't trust this girl. She just showed up. She got this purple hair. Why she got purple hair?
She seemed more like a politician with a grand, like somebody gave her like an honorary rank.
She came across as a character trying to make you feel that you couldn't trust her because it's probably going to go differently. This isn't going to go the way you think it is later on in the movie. And this is where I come to the point of, and again, I like this movie. If this is the path we're going with this trilogy, I really like this movie. But I have no attachment to Holdo.
None
whatsoever. And you know what, David, you and I were talking earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The BTB crew has a better idea for Admiral Holdo. Instead of having this character where you only know, you shouldn't have to read a novel to understand who this character is. They did not give you a reason to care about this character in this movie.
I mean, even like the online community went wild because she in the book is a LGBT character.
Right.
She's lesbian. And you would not have gotten that out of this movie.
No.
So now there's an entire like subculture of the internet that's really pissed off that they didn't take this character where she needed to go.
And we can touch on that way later, but I think there's a lot of cuts.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and
but
we'll touch on that way later, but I agree. I think something changed concerning the elements with this character at some point in production or during the cutting phase of the film. I wouldn't say it was the worst performance I've ever seen. I don't want that because I mean she serves a purpose. She does serve a purpose, and everything.
I mean, we'll just go ahead and say. I mean, we've already gone out of sequence already. So I mean, basically, ultimately, what happens is I mean, are you okay with this?
Yeah.
The resistance, in order to escape, because their members are getting picked off by the First Order. They basically are going to fuel up the grand plan that Holdo has is to fuel up the escape pods and ship the resistance down to Crate. Okay, and so Poe doesn't agree with that plan. He thinks that's he calls Holdo a traitor. So Holdo has not shared her plan with anybody. He comes marching up to the bridge asking for an explanation. She tells the flyboy to go away. He puts two and two together, realizes that she's just going to put everyone into escape pods. Takes him off the brig. A mutiny gets planned.
Well, he's thinking. The thing is he's thinking more on the level of we can't give up our cruiser. Like we have to figure out like because at this point they've learned that there's a way to Rose is like, wait, what? They tracked us through hyperspace. So obviously we get a brief moment with Maz Kanata. Apparently she's in some sort of firefight. Which I would have actually loved to see instead of on a hologram.
See, I hated the Maz Kanata scene. That to me felt like Battlefront 2, where you got to the point where you had to get the mission update, and now you have to go find the slicer to go to the thing, and you have to get the specific person, and they're wearing a red pendulum on their shirt. Like, to me, that was like a shitty Battlefront 2 side tangent mission, which is a shame because I actually really enjoyed the campaign on Battlefront 2. So I'm not trying to bash that game. As much as EA jerked around consumers, I thought the campaign was good. Okay, end of that rant. And the hologram was like, it kind of looked weird, and like, For someone who's so butthurt about losing her castle on Takadana like 25 minutes ago, she's right back in it. You know, it's like, I don't know. It felt to me like she was shoehorned in.
So we get this scene and everything.
That is like the most. Can I just note how like relaxed your response? I just like blew up, and you're like, all right. So let me continue with my thought. Let me not react to how outrageously upset you are about this scene.
The point is, you know, so they developed this plan. Okay, we need this code breaker, so we can sneak aboard Snoke's ship.
Yeah, I already explained all that. It sucked.
And so that's how we end up on Canto Bight.
What did you think of Canto Bight?
Sucked. Waste of time. Didn't need it.
The magic of Disney.
It seemed too magical. Like, I was expecting something a little grittier. Honestly, a little scuzzier.
Really?
Yeah.
The entire time they've been talking about how it's the rich and famous. This is where they go to.
I felt like it was too overboard because then you know we get introduced to DJ and he's completely filthy with holy socks, a stuttering retard. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Whoa, let's not use that word though.
You know, I just I expected so much more out of this character, and I don't know if it was because they cut more like of his scenes out.
I think it's how they build him. I mean, they kind of... First off, he's the character that we weren't supposed to get, right? We were supposed to get the one guy at the high players table, and at the high rollers table, and we got this guy. So he's supposed to be not as good.
I know, but it's just kind of like, okay, we got this guy who's absolutely filthy, but... And yeah, I think there's a dirty underworld underneath all the glamour here, because, I mean, obviously there's slavery going on this planet.
Yeah. Kind of like a weird reflection of what we saw with Anakin, right? I mean,
yes.
Like, yeah.
So it's just one of those things where, are we going to go back to this planet?
I don't think so.
Quick shout out, Tom, the PT Gamer guys heading out.
So
thanks for joining us.
Thanks for hanging out, man. That was awesome.
Thanks for hanging out, yeah.
I'm with you. The way I kind of envisioned Canto Bight, once we got some images from the Variety magazine article and stuff, like I started going away from like, oh, it's kind of like the Cloud City of Last Jedi. Kind of thought of it more like a swingers club, like a lot of sin, a lot of money, and it was like yaks, like we had space yaks racing.
Yeah, like we basically the equivalent of horse racing. For me, I would have actually preferred to see pod racing.
It would be cool to see that back, yeah.
Not,
but I think
it got me so damn torn, Jesse, because my answer is no. But then it brings it full circle, which makes me want to say yes.
Well, this is the thing. You got to remember, though, is that pod racing was not just unique to Tatooine. Okay, because
there's a whole planetary circuit.
Yeah, so it's one of those things to where it would have been nice to maybe have seen that.
It would have been a nice nod to satisfy the prequel fans. Because, like, I didn't buy any of the CG characters. Like, there's a lot of new creatures that they created for this movie. And, like, I like the crystal critters, and I like the porgs now that I've seen them in the movie. But I didn't need these space yak things. And then, like, Rose and Finn become, like, these these pet PETA representatives, essentially, and had to free the space yaks from the evil...
Well, I think it wasn't, like, they didn't just free him to free him. It was, we're going to...
I know, it was a diversion, but still, it seemed all very forced. And here's the thing. Because you're watching this, you know what happened in the movie. You take that Canto Bight, that whole thing out of it. Nothing in that movie changes. Nothing in that movie changes. If it does, very little. Because the only thing that resulted from this Canto Bight sequence is eventually the First Order realized they were shipping the ships off the cruiser. But you're going to tell me that a ship that's how many kilometers long?
37 miles.
37 miles
32
long.
32 miles.
32 miles. Something ridiculous. That thing doesn't have the technology to find smaller carriers leaving that ship. I know there was like some explanation given in the movie,
well,
but like,
in the movie,
come on. Everything else though was a waste.
The ship cloaking device basically kind of engage, and it's not like they're actually going invisible.
But my point being though is there was no point of going. Virtually nothing changed. That whole Canto Bight thing was, I don't know. It kind of seemed like
it was a gamble, and they lost.
And a lot of CGI.
Yeah.
And again, Rian Johnson took a lot of risks. Some paid off, some did not. But I feel like this is the one moment where George Lucas was watching with Rian going, "Oh yeah, I see what you're doing here. I really like this. Yeah,
I expected certain elements to be present.
Kind of looked like
Naboo. For one, this is supposed to be kind of your rich and your rich kind of sleazeball kind of deal. I didn't see a single hut. I wanted to, you know, because
Yeah.
these are crime. The Hutts are crime lords. This is basically a crime lord's paradise city. I should have seen at least one hut somewhere.
Yeah. No.
You know, again, I think there's a dirty underlayer to this place, which might be cool to revisit maybe in a book, comic, or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was very lackluster for me. Like, and even, you know, DJ. I mean, don't get me wrong, Del Toro's, he does a great performance. You know, for what the character is, it's a great performance. I had in my mind a grittier character.
Yeah. Well, I think that's how it was marketed. It was marketed to get your expectations up. I'll tell you that.
And
much.
I was actually pretty disappointed
Yeah.
with that character. You know, I think I think he survives. You know, that's the thing is we may see him again, and maybe he'll be more badass. You know, if he makes a reappearance kind of thing.
So we got the Resistance trying to stay out of reach of the First Order bomb.
Yeah.
We have Rose hating these Cantobite rich people, and Finn with her. You have Rey and Luke. Finally, Rey is able to... Well, Luke is somehow convinced to give her 3 lessons because of her persistence.
Let's get to that.
But we only get 2 of the 3.
We get to talk about one of my favorite fun moments.
My favorite scene?
You can tell where we started liking the movie.
Okay. So, back to Octu.
Mm-hmm.
And this is after the tree and everything. Rey's asleep, you know, basically outside of Luke's hut. And it skips over to Chewie. Chewie's got a fire going, and he's roasting porgs over a fire. We get a little bit of a comical thing, because the porgs are like, you're eating us, you know? And then he scares them off and kind of shuffles. And then you get the really sad puppy dog eyes, like...
They were adorable.
And it was just like... You know, and then he yells at it and everything, and then
porg over here somewhere?
The porgs worked.
You know, and then Chewie just loses all. She's like, I can't eat this. Like I feel absolutely terrible because you know.
Can I just say that those porgs showed more emotion than any character in Justice League?
Oh, burn.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, they brought you humor and they brought you guilt.
During this sequence, we see Luke stow away onto the Falcon. And
he grabs the dice off of the...
He powers up,
and...
you know, the cockpit and sees the dice. And you can tell that he's really, you know, he's remembering things, you know. And
I've been here before.
He's kind of sitting there, and R2 powers up. So we get that long-awaited reunion between Luke
That
and
was
R2.
one of the best moments, I think, for me.
And, you know... a little bit of comedy there, and he's like, hey, this is a sacred island, you know, you watch your mouth here. So we know, at this point, I think everybody knows that R2-D2 curses like a sailor, which is, I absolutely love it. But then, you know, he fires up that old...
Yeah, so to set the stage, I mean, this scene is, you know, Luke is sitting there at the gaming table, R2 powers on. R2, we're led to believe that he has a lot of questions on why the hell you ran away for 30 years or 5 years.
Behind, kind of thing.
And, you know, he goes, oh, old friend, I'm sorry. Nothing I can say will make you understand. But I'm never coming back. Nothing you can say will change that. And then he plays A New Hope hologram message.
And he's like, that's a low blow kind of thing. You know?
Cheap trick.
And, you know, and then we get that moment where he's standing over Rey, and Rey wakes up, and he's just like, 3 lessons in the morning. You know, so,
and the first lesson is to feel the Force. Like, what is the Force? What's your understanding of the Force?
You know, so I wish, you know, a friend of mine was like, yeah, I didn't really like the, you know, like the humor there, and I was like, I actually thought it was hilarious.
That first lesson?
Yeah, because she's like, I can feel it, and he's, you know, like.
So he's like, reach out to the Force, and she's like, okay, you know, so she puts out her hand, and he rolls his eyes, and then he just starts playing with that like leaf.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I can feel it. He's like, oh, you
must be really strong. Yeah.
Like, that was like a great, like, Mr. Miyagi, Daniel Son moment. Like, I really enjoyed that.
And then we get into that very tense moment where, you know, he's really being more on the serious side, like, feel this.
And I love how, like, visually Ryan kind of conveyed how, you know, life and, you know, and death and how that leads to new life. And I loved how that cycle was explained. But then she takes a turn, man. She finds the dark side and she just locks onto it, which that's what we find out scares Luke.
Yeah, and he's like, I've seen this kind of, we get that line, I've seen this kind of power before in Ben Solo, and it didn't scare me enough, then, but I'm
scared now.
Scared now, kind of thing. And, that's kind of that's the end of the lesson for the day. Because it's like he's automatically turned off. Like he just wants her to go at this point because he thinks he's dealing with another,
right?
Another basically evil person. And
now we've been jumping around quite a bit through this movie, so we'll get caught up to the 2/3 point with this conversation. The Force connectivity between Rey and Kylo. I think it's one of the best parts of this movie. I think it's one of the best parts of the entire Star Wars telling story. Because I thought it was so well executed.
Well, I thought we're going to have to back up just for a brief moment because in that scene, she's describing what she felt and what she saw, but she couldn't see Luke in the Force.
Oh, right, because he turned himself off.
Yeah, and she's basically just like, you've turned yourself off from the Force. So I think it's kind of interesting because I think, we know that the Force can be used to potentially kind of find people at some level. So I think basically he's learned to basically gone stealth cloaking field kind of thing, and and that's how he's been living. Is he's basically
turned himself off. So let's talk about that Rey and Kylo connectivity through the Force thing. We later learned that it's by Snoke's doing, but what were your thoughts when you saw that first moment where she's kind of looking around, she's inside the hut, and there's Kylo.
Well, I guess that takes place before the whole...
Yeah, that's why we're just going to jump back and we're just going to go through it.
Yeah, man.
How did you react to that?
My insides were going, no, because I really thought, no, are we really going to do Reylo here? I'm very, very much opposed to that fan theory that...
that they become romantic.
Yeah, it's just no, you just watch this guy kill his father. That's not somebody you fall in love with and settle down with.
But this turns out to be not that at all. This is just that they're somehow being connected through the Force, and they can see each other. But Kylo's ability is different from Rey's perspective. They're seeing less than the other.
I actually have an explanation for that.
Yeah, because we know Snoke hooked them up with that.
Right.
But do you think that's because Rey's on a island temple of the Jedi that's hidden and?
Because Snoke is familiar with the ship, he's able to project the image of the ship. Okay, so that's why potentially Rey was I'm assuming Rey could see more of Kylo's surroundings, and that's because Snoke has actually been there. But Snoke doesn't know where she's at, kind of thing. So
that's definitely a speculation, but I like the idea.
Well, yeah, it's a speculation, but that's kind of after the second viewing,
I love how the air gets sucked out.
Yeah.
When they're in that moment, you hear the air go. They're a little echoey. I like how their voices kind of bounce around.
But that first moment, her first instinct is to shoot him.
Yeah.
And
he's getting his scar touched up.
Well, now we can talk a little bit about the medical.
Yeah.
And everything, because okay, so we've got some very advanced technology. They're not just putting they're actually looks like stitching actual flesh. Kind of thing. So we can assume that this was done for Finn. Okay, because he took a pretty bad blow, lightsaber slash to the back.
He's only out for a day, apparently.
Yeah. So you can assume that it's essentially along the same lines.
Yeah.
And everything. So I actually kind of thought that was kind of a cool thing to kind of see. Some something that I think actually is being researched on a real world level.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. That next time we see them, though, I like because now we're learning that you can take elements of one location to the other. Kylo is staring out into the First Order hangar there on Snoke's capital ship. Rey's out in the rain, and they have another conversation, which brings up the whole, do you know what happened?
Yeah.
Do you know what happened that night that, I destroyed the temple? and then
It's very interesting because
yeah.
you know, we get two perspectives.
Yeah, we do. So it ends, and he's got water on his glove, suggesting that's rainwater from where Rey is on the island. And yeah, I love the flashback that we get. We get the flashback of Kylo feeling betrayed by Luke, destroying the hut, and destroying the entire temple.
Well, we get that scene with him in the hut twice, and I don't know if you caught it.
Three
times, yeah.
When we see it from
Luke's perspective, he doesn't have a lightsaber in his hand.
Well, he does have a lightsaber in his hand, but he looks normal. When you look at it from Kylo, when he's telling that part of the story, you can see that he's got more makeup on. He looks more menacing and angry. He's almost snarling.
Well, this is like definitely a nerdy conversation. This is definitely a very nerdy conversation. The first time where he shares it in the temple with Rey, he does not have a lightsaber. He is just like looking over Kylo. Mm-hmm. But it's that second time where he's on his back. It's raining. He and Rey have just finished like sword fighting with sticks. That's when he admits, "Listen, I was about to kill this kid because I could see the future and I saw death and destruction."
Yeah, we get Kylo's perspective of him basically waking up in the middle of the night.
And an evil Luke. I mean, he looked crazy.
And you know, to see your uncle standing over you with an ignited lightsaber.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my first instinct would be grab my lightsaber and defend myself. So I mean, I can't really fault Kylo for that.
From a certain point of view, that's the thing that I thought of at the end of the movie for the first time. Was that line is so true?
Yeah.
Is from a certain point of view, Luke betrayed him. Luke failed Ben. Ben failed Luke. I mean, I thought that was just so well done.
Because the thing is Ben, he defended himself, I think, potentially rightly, or I mean, we kind of learn the full story later with the third, viewing of it, but he goes off and basically destroys the whole temple. And an interesting tidbit that we learn is that he took some of the other students with him.
Knights of Ren, we're led to believe.
We still haven't seen yet.
And we haven't seen these individuals yet, and that kind of scares me a little bit. Is what happened to these other individuals and everything. Mm-hmm.
But he also killed the rest.
And he killed the rest and everything. So, it was one of those moments where it was just like, okay, I think that I knew that there was probably a little bit more like going on to this. Mm-hmm. And of course, after that moment, we see that second, viewing. We get a confrontation between Rey and Luke. Finally, it's kind of gotten to that boiling point.
Did you create Kylo Ren?
And everything. And
did you do it?
We get to see some element of Luke's fighting ability. Granted, not with a lightsaber, but I mean, he does. Had he had a lightsaber, I think he would have been able. I mean, he immediately backed down because she went for the killer weapon, the killing weapon.
Yeah, but you notice when he fell back, he uses the Force to catch himself. Like, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm not gonna fall on my ass.
So it's one of those things where it's very interesting to see where you can see where he's very much using the Force. We're seeing that Jedi way of fighting and everything. And,
so the point we're at right now is Rey has gone to Luke saying, "Take the saber, and if you're not going to take it, I'm going to go because I feel that there is good in Kylo Ren still." And I know that the time right now it's 8:30 Central Time, so we're going to have to wrap up pretty soon. But we'll be sure to hit the live chat one more time still though.
Alex, comic reporter, just joined us.
Oh, hey, Alex, what is up, man? I still have to do a haul video. He gave me like books and then like more books that I didn't ask for, so I got to do a video for that in the near future.
So can we come to my favorite scene of the movie?
Sure.
When Yoda pops up.
Oh, did we not talk about Yoda?
No.
Well,
how the hell did we not talk about it?
It's right after this.
Oh, it's right after this.
Yeah, because
that's right, because Rey leaves to go get Kylo, and then Luke goes to burn down the tree.
He grabs the flare and walks up there, getting ready to do it, and we see those little green ears.
So, like, the feelings of nostalgia kick in, and you're wondering, okay, is it going to be CGI or is it going to be puppet, and is it really going to really matter? Because I argue that Episode 3 CGI Yoda looks pretty damn good, but they went the puppet route, and I think it paid off.
Yes.
I think that was the right way to do it, and it was the older Yoda. Mm-hmm. He was comical, he was witty, a little delirious, but he goes from comical to dead serious. Like that.
Still teaching mode kind of thing.
And like Luke turning around going, "Master Yoda." Like, oh yeah, like what's up? Like
Yeah.
I don't think this was the first time they. Was it the first time you think they've talked in the last?
No, I
No,
don't, because
I don't think so.
we know that Luke sees him at the end of Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Obviously, we have a 30-year time gap here.
I mean, somebody had to teach him how to do it.
Right. So he's been around a few
But
times.
I also think potentially because Luke has kind of been flipping the switch off and on with his and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think one, because Luke kind of turned it back on, it allowed Yoda to, via the Force kind of track him down. Again, speculation, but yeah, that moment where you see the ears, I'm like, this is a good moment for that.
I like the fact that it's Yoda who burns down the tree. Like, Luke is all about doing it, and then he pulls himself back. Yoda takes care of it with the Force. The lightning bolt blows it up. And Luke starts complaining about the Jedi texts were in there.
Yeah, like immediately regretting his
Like,
decision.
immediately regrets it. You gotta think that Yoda does this knowing he knows that the books aren't in there.
Yeah, that Rey stole them already.
Like, I think...
Page turners.
Yeah,
page turners they were not.
Yeah, one of the best lines in the movie. I loved how they integrated him because he brought a right amount of humor, but then the lesson about failure being the best teacher, I thought was so good. And then bringing it back to that conversation on Dagobah, boom, hits him in the head. Focus on where you are. So worried about the horizon. Focus on where you are now. And I thought it was.
You fail Kylo, don't fail Rey.
Yeah.
It puts. Because yes, I mean, I think you have to have some sympathy for Luke here because he is essentially the last, Jedi and everything. You get the Return of the Jedi, and Tarna. This is the only Force user, that's prominent,
Right.
in the face of the galaxy kind of thing, and so I think there was an expectation for him to immediately rebuild the Jedi Order, and that's a lot of pressure, So being inexperienced and everything, he probably shouldn't have taken. And he even says, and Leia wanted me to take Ben, and I did, as well as a dozen other students. So I think he was overwhelmed to some degree. He was unable to actually focus. He was trying to train multiple people at once.
He was trying to build up the Order too quickly.
And I think as a result of that, that's how he failed Ben, was he wasn't able to actually focus on him individually to give him the attention he needed.
We can roll with that. Before we go on to the next, because I think at this point we just need to fast forward to the throne room. What are people saying in the chat? Anyone commenting on Yoda?
Alex thinks Yoda looks pretty good.
Okay.
The chat just disappeared on me.
Oh no, the chat disappeared.
No.
It did just disappear.
Chat, blow bubbles if you can hear us.
I'm seeing some comments here from Alex. I personally think Yoda looked perfect. I think we all pretty much agree with that. And then question, where do you all think the Knights of Ren are? Right now we just don't know. And if Rian Johnson didn't tackle it, my thoughts are maybe Abrams said, I'm coming back for 9. Maybe at this point they knew that he was coming back for 9. Let me play with them.
I think they're out trying to take control of the rest of the galaxy.
You think they're tasked with other things?
Yeah, they're out leading the charge to regain that military control.
We're going to come back to Episode 9, and the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is Rey's not just going to have Kylo. Kylo will have the Knights of Ren nearby. They're definitely going to be in there. I don't see how you have Episode 9 with Abrams returning and not having them there.
So yeah, okay, so we get to this throne room. Snoke's throne
Again,
room.
let's acknowledge the fact that we have like this big emotional moment, and then Jesse's just like, all right, so back to business. Throne room. Rey's there on the ship. She gets brought in by Kylo.
I think she's a little shocked. I think she was kind of expecting maybe a bigger welcome, because he's just there, and then boom, handcuffs.
Right.
And then we get to this throne room and everything, and Snoke is honestly, at this point, I've gathered he's a very arrogant individual.
When you're called Supreme Leader.
Yep.
So he basically just powerhouses, Rey. He gets the information he wants out of her, basically taunts her by going, watch as your friends, your fleet, we're going to destroy them kind of thing. And of course, at the same time that this is going on, DJ, Finn, and Rose have infiltrated, and BB-8 have infiltrated the ship, and they're going to try to turn this hyperspace tracker off, and
they get caught.
They get caught. DJ sells them out, and everything. Also, we see Captain Phasma for the first time.
Right.
So at this point, we got two different things going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the Resistance is still running away.
Yeah. So, and then we kind of get into this thing where it's just like, all right, I've got everything I need from you. Boom. They basically plants Rey on her knees in front of Kylo and says, "Kill her."
And then that's the moment where you see him pick up the lightsaber, and to me, I felt like. I mean, didn't you kind of feel it coming, like, we're about to have a team up here? Or did you think for a moment that that Kylo was going to slash her head off? I mean, obviously, he can't. Like, the only option is for them to team up in that scene.
And at this point, it was kind of predictable. I was like, if they're not going to kill Rey off, because, gosh, the whole fan community would be super pissed. You just kill off, like, the first major heroine, Star Wars kind of thing,
Heroine,
like
a female leader, not the drug.
So,
Disclaimer.
I had a lot of mixed feelings about how this went down, because it was just like the moment you start seeing Kylo, he's turning his hand.
Well, and Snoke is narrating the actions, but he doesn't see that it's him.
It's kind of clever in a sense that Kylo is like, I've outwitted you. So I mean, props on that.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of expected a flashier ending, to Snoke. And this was kind of like...
Instead of just like a lightsaber through him?
No.
It got a
cut him in half like a Maul.
Andy Serkis is credited for the next movie already, so...
Oh, that's right. He's on the character.
I still have my fingers crossed that he's Plagueis, and he's figured out how to come back from death.
So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll get to that.
The battle sequence is incredible.
The Praetorian Guard let me down.
Yeah, Kylo Ren, Rey team up. They slaughter the Praetorian Guards, and I'm glad, because I think they look terrible. It was a cool fight sequence, but I think they look better.
Here's the thing, though. You gotta really think it's kind of cool that they didn't really show in any of the teasers for those guards, because we were like, oh, these are just normal weapons and everything. Did you guys notice that they had like the energy and like some of them, like the one guy actually looked like he was using some kind of crudely like lightsaber.
Yeah, there was like maybe some kyber in the design. Yeah.
So I actually kind of enjoyed that. I mean, you have to admit they were kind of did fight, somewhat like badass. Like it was a cool fight scene and everything. But obviously we get to that intense moment to where Kylo realizes this is over. Snoke is dead on the floor in pieces. He is seizing power.
Yeah, and so Kylo is basically like turning to Rey and say, "Join me," and Rey's not having it. "Don't do this. Come to the light side with me. Let's go find Luke and the Resistance and save him."
And this is where I cheered for joy.
Yeah, and he goes, no, join me. He goes, you're nothing. You have no role in this story. Who do you think you are? Who do you think your parents are? And we get the reveal. Parents were nothing. She's a nobody. Her parents were drunkards, and she should just join the dark side. Just join Kylo. Let the Jedi die. Let the Sith die. Let the Rebels die. Let them all die. We'll create our new order.
And I get in this Force tug of war.
Oh, where the lightsaber blows up? Yes.
They basically pull the lightsaber apart and everything, and then we kind of cut to the execution scene with Finn and like at this point they've been captured. It's revealed that DJ sold out, the Resistance by telling them, by the way, you need to run a cloak scan, and that's how they knew to start picking them off and everything. And so then obviously at this point, we get back to Vice Admiral.
Right. So what happens? So at this point of the game is they're gonna send off the Resistance to Crate because she's been filling up the escape pods. They're sending them away. Poe has rallied some troops, committed mutiny.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up getting taken out by Leia,
who's awake now,
who resurrects. Haldo is there having a conversation with Leia and explains that someone has to stay by and pilot the cruiser while everyone escapes.
Do you know... Okay, continue.
So, the moment builds where Snoke's capital ship is taking out all the Resistance shuttles, so Haldo decides that she needs to spin the cruiser around, and she's going to blast into them at hyperspeed. And it creates one of the more pretty shots that I've seen.
Visually pretty cool.
I don't know if it fits the Star Wars world. Like, it looks cool, but it is spectacular. You can't deny visually it is satisfying. And that's what shifts a lot of things, because that action allows the Resistance to get down to Crate. It blows up the hangar where Finn and Rose are, that ultimately allows them to escape on a shuttle to Crate. And it allows Rey to escape by knocking Kylo unconscious.
Yeah.
And so now we're brought at the point where basically First Order is heading to Crate behind the Resistance.
Well, let's not forget a key conflict here too that we're Phasma and Finn.
They have a battle, and he kills her.
I'll tell you something. I don't think she's dead.
She's definitely dead.
No, there's a gut feeling that no,
Phasma.
I have a feeling that somehow she's gonna survive.
Incorrectly used in the first movie, couldn't be salvaged in the second movie. They're not bringing her back on the third.
They should.
I don't know. I just saying gut feeling.
We're at 8:42. We're running out of time. What's the live chat going right now?
Live chat. They're just talking about the throne room. Alex Comic Book Hoarder agrees that Phasma's gone. Comicholics, very happy with the development of Rey and Kylo, both great characters.
Best part of the movie, I think.
Randy's talking about Grey Jedi being established in the movies. Was hoping for a full switch of Kylo and Rey.
I don't think the Grey Jedi thing can happen because we now know that the Jedi aren't ending. Like that's the end of the movie. That there is Jedi. There will be Jedi moving forward. So I don't think the Grey Jedi thing is really about. I don't think that's a concept that's going to flourish in the new trilogy.
Yeah, at least not anytime soon. There would have to be so many different other expanded universes.
You could probably play with that a little bit more with Ahsoka if you throw it back.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could essentially say that she was neither an unofficial Jedi kind of thing.
Anything else?
No, that's about it.
We're getting on this. We're getting into the nerdy talk of the movie, and I want to make sure we're throwing it back to the chat.
Have we talked about my Admiral Akbar thought yet? Did I mention that?
Do we talk about how Akbar should replace Holdo?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, we can go ahead and just say that now.
So I think that Admiral Akbar should have done what Holdo did.
Oh wait, we might have talked about this, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When Holdo spins the ship around to commit the suicide mission and blow up all the ships, I think that would have had a lot more emotional toll on the audience if it was Akbar, a character we already knew about, and not Holdo, who no one cares about.
Can I address something too? What I don't like is she's supposed to be an admiral, and she's basically wearing a dress. It's not practical in a military sense. Okay. Same thing with Leia here.
This is the cosplay side of him coming out, I think.
No, but I mean, it's kind of the environment. It's building the character. I kind of feel like she should not have been wearing the dress.
Good night, Monkston. Thanks for joining us.
Billy Lord was in this movie quite a bit more. She was in an officer uniform and everything. That's what I was kind of expecting, was somebody a little bit more military. I can maybe understand Leia.
Well, and I think that's what's
donning it, but
the thing about Poe's reaction to her is that the admiral that we were,
Yeah.
I think that was the moment where we all were like, that doesn't look like a military leader.
At this point, I mean, obviously, she torpedoes base, uses the cruiser as like a giant torpedo. And in some ways, some character redemption on some level for me, but I think it would have been a little bit more.
I think this is a good time
if the places had been switched.
Yeah, I think the Akbar theory would have gone well. I want to bring up that Wayne once worked with John Boyega, because apparently that's what he wants to talk about in the chat. Or at least Alex Comic Book Hoarder wants to talk about that in the chat. So we'll give you a shout out, Wayne, because we love you. And then are we working on pulling up Randy's list on the Facebook page?
Got it.
Cool. So we'll bring that up in a second. Let's just have this kind of be like the final culmination of the movie talk, because we are running really late here. We're on Crate. The battle ensues. The Resistance is just getting shattered here. Finn almost commits suicide going into the battering ram. I'm summarizing quick because of time. But it all builds to the point where, the Resistance put out a distress signal. People have heard it. They're not answering. No hope remains for the Resistance.
Yeah, even Leia is at this point stumbling, and
in comes Luke Skywalker, who's shaved his beard, who's got his lightsaber, who's got his traditional Jedi robes on. And we get a really cool moment with him and Leia. I think that's one of the most emotional parts of the movie. And it was great to see them share that moment. Gives her the dice.
I kind of wonder if this was maybe reshot after she had passed.
Oh, really?
Because just the way that scene went, it was very touching, and maybe it was just pure coincidence, but I do kind of feel mean, if I'm wrong, you know,
how can they
Ryan
reshoot that?
Johnson.
How can you
don't
reshoot
know.
that? Because she was definitely in that scene.
I just, unless they went back and did the old CGI.
She definitely was not CGI'd in any of those scenes. There's just no way.
Know.
I think
it must.
I think this movie is
coincidence.
eerily ironic. And he basically comes in and says, "Listen, I'm here to face him. I'm coming for blood." And you know, he goes out there, and I love the scene. He's going through the flame. You know, he's going through the fire. All the walkers out in front of him. Kylo sees this and just said, you know, and orders every gun to fire on that man. And you know what? I don't agree.
Cowardice a little bit to me there, but
I think it makes sense. I don't think it was cowardice at all.
He's a
I
all of
think
a sudden,
he's
the most powerful Jedi walks out of this freaking mining, you know, door and everything. And yeah, maybe that would be my reaction. No, screw this. I'm not gonna try to duel this guy one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah,
it was a great moment, and it felt epic to me. This was the moment where I said, okay, this if I ever needed something to explain what epic is, it was that scene. And of course, all this gunfire, and it's a simple, you can't touch this.
Dun, 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 dun.
Kylo comes down to the surface. They start to face off. Again, another epic moment. I love the sky behind them, and lightsabers ignited, and the good conversation between them. Ben, I failed you. I'm sorry. You should be. Like, it was intense, and I loved it. You know, and then foot play. You know, it's interesting when you walk on Crate, when you walk on the salt, it goes white to red, but it doesn't for Luke, does it?
I noticed that in my first viewing, actually.
Really?
So it was just one of those things where it's just like, for me, it's like, something's not right. Either he's just like that light-footed kind of thing, or we've got something's going on here. So, yeah, it was definitely kind of a cool, scene. We do get to see some fancy saber footwork, actual, like lightsaber fighting.
Right.
I kind of wish it was a little bit more, just to kind of give that to Luke's character.
The blade's going to clash, though, because we learned that Luke is actually not there. I'm calling it Force apparition, but other people call it Force projection. He's there in Act 2, and he is just like investing every ounce of energy of himself into keeping this thing alive.
Well, I'm just like, even if it would have just been flips, we kind of see some movements that are kind of almost similar to how Yoda was moving and everything, with the quick flips and everything.
Yeah.
I think if they would have just maybe added just a few more of those in there, just to kind of give us an idea of Luke's actual fighting. But even though he wasn't there, I think that would have been nice. But I mean, overall, yeah, it was that moment that, like, this is one of the best moments in the movie.
Totally agree. Because he's out there, he's buying time for the Resistance people who are trying to find a way out of the Resistance base, and they get saved by a Rey, which is great. We found out he's not the apparition. Kylo feels like defeat, like I guess he's never felt before, because he's just beside himself. And then the movie wraps by learning that we have everything that we need. Like, the rebellion is born. I love the ending. So, like, early on in the movie, right? Rey says, "This is what I think the Force is," and Luke's like, "Well, everything you said is wrong." Well, Kylo says, "When I kill you, the Jedi will be gone. I'll kill the Resistance. They'll be over. Yada yada." Luke again says, "That's interesting. Everything you said is wrong."
We get a lot of powerful lines towards the end of the movie here. Obviously, as the Resistance making the escape on the Falcon, Leia and Rey sense Luke's final moments, and this actually cuts to my favorite part in the entire movie, where Luke, he's dying, and he's staring off into the sunset, and it's homage to 17-year-old farm boy, looking off at the twin suns and everything, and it's a time, he's looking back, and he is at peace. Yeah, he didn't have much as a farm boy, but it was a happy time for him, and in some ways, like, there was no fighting. He wasn't involved in this big war and struggle and everything. So yeah, it was like, that for me was a really powerful, moment for the character. And if you were going to send Luke off in that way,
it's a great way.
It's a great way to go, because it is potentially, maybe it was by choice. And lore-wise, if you look at it this way, he died physically, but he's the living force.
Well, the thing about, I go to the very last couple lines where like Rey's talking about how he died with peace and purpose. Like, that he is sitting there, he is looking out at the suns, you hear his theme, like, he allowed it to be his time to go.
Yes.
I think the way I kind of understood it was like, because you're looking, again, face acting by Mark Hamill, like, he was there and he's out of it. And then he's kind of like, you know what, I've done
enough.
I've done it, and I can leave this knowing that Rey, I can still be with Rey, and Rey can carry it out.
Yeah.
And we know that Rey has the text, so I think she's going to study from those texts and learn how to build a lightsaber with that staff.
Well, that's the other.
And I think that she's got the hope, she's got the ability,
I guess to some level, she's sitting. Rey's actually kind of distraught at this point because it's just like, well, who's going to teach me? I don't have a lightsaber, right? Kylo's got a lightsaber.
Yeah.
She's got the text, but she really hasn't had time, obviously, to sit down and read through them. And and then Leia does sit down, and this is again kind of pros and cons of her living. And we know at this point that Leia is obviously had some sort of training with the Force, and she's sitting there holding the halves of this lightsaber. And I don't know if you caught it, but the crystal
it's still there.
is still there.
Yeah.
So I think we could still end up seeing our double-bladed lightsaber.
Oh, I think that's totally happening.
Okay.
That staff's going to be still around.
When Leia goes, we have everything we need.
Yeah.
I think on some level it's in reference to... It's a line that kind of serves a lot of purpose there.
I would totally agree with that.
I think if you apply it to the lightsaber, everything Rey needs to rebuild the lightsaber's there.
And she's got the book, so she can rebuild the knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure one of those books has a diagram. And I think at this point, now that we've gone through the movie and we've talked about what we like, what we don't like, I mean, it just makes sense. Like, Episode 9, to me, cannot start immediately after Episode 8. Like, I feel like Episode 9
we need some
needs
time.
a leap.
We need a little... Because what we know about the original trilogy, at the very least, I mean, I think Empire is fairly immediate after A New Hope.
It was 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years in between each movie.
Yeah, so...
But
I never really felt that way to me, You know what I mean?
Like, that was just in the books. I mean, but like my thing is the fact that I think we got this immediate response after Force Awakens with The Last Jedi. I want 3 years to go by. The Resistance has to... Well, it's not the Resistance anymore. They're calling themselves the Rebels again. So the Rebels need to build again. And build up some numbers. Rey needs to do some training. She needs to develop some skills to go against Kylo because... they did not really fight each other in this movie. I mean, clearly there was an opportunity at the very end where he senses her on the Falcon, but they don't duel.
She breaks the connection. There's a symbolic when she closes the ramp door.
Yeah, she's done with him.
She's done with him.
He's bad.
She's
Raylo's not happening.
Connection.
We got. I don't want to address this. We did a video on our channel about Raylo, what we thought about it, and how we didn't agree with it, and we got a lot of. There were a lot of new people that have found us. Maybe some people are watching this right now.
Hate.
A lot of people did not like that we don't like Raylo. Okay, well, I'm not here to say, well, look at us, we got it right. But, Raylo is closed down with this movie. This movie shuts that theory down. Some people are just bad. Even Luke says, he cannot be saved. I've got to go out there for blood. Kylo makes his decision not to go to the light with Rey. Rey rejects him and the dark side. In Episode 9, the showdown is Kylo versus Rey. Whether they live out for 10, 11, 12, I don't know. The showdown, he is the baddie. And she is the one light.
I mean, the actual closing shot for the movie is the slave boy using the Force to grab
I didn't need it. It should have ended on the Falcon. Didn't need it. I get what they're saying is like
they're trying to project.
The Rebel Alliance is spreading and there's other Force users and it's all very convenient.
Yeah,
I just needed it on the Falcon.
I don't want to say I hated it, but yeah, it may have been something that probably wasn't needed.
It seemed like a thing for it was like Disney's way of telling the child in the theater, you can be great too. Which I think is a great message, but I think that it's all about execution.
I mean, overall, personally for me, I would still give the movie 10 out of 10. Because despite the things I don't like about it, the things that happened, there was purpose. There was purpose behind everything that happened in this movie, whether you like it or not. And I immediately plugged back into the internet after seeing it the first time, and and of course I'm seeing everybody's reactions kind of thing, and and I think Star Wars fans are broken up into a lot of different categories. You have the very casual, fan who they'll probably go and see this and they'll enjoy it. Most of them I think probably do. And you get the die-hard original trilogy only fans.
Right.
And these are the people who went and saw this movie and that are bashing on it so bad. And I'm sorry if we have any of you in the chat. Okay, and you are entitled to your opinion, but I think when you have to look at this as a whole story arc from episode 1 to episode 8.
Film is subjective. You don't have to like, you don't have to dislike, and I think you can choose the parts that you like. I'll be honest. Yeah. I love the original trilogy. I enjoyed the prequels, and I'm having mixed emotions about this new sequel trilogy.
That's the thing, is I think you have to pull the best parts. Kind of like, treat it like, how the prequels. There are great parts about the prequels that are needed, and in terms of story and plot line that we had to see, to help explain the original trilogy. So it's the same thing here.
And let's be honest, there's things about the original trilogy, especially the remastered versions, that we didn't like either. I mean, we went on a 20-minute tirade the other day about the extended dance scene in Jabba's palace.
Dude, that is like one of the worst decisions George Lucas made.
It didn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. Visually, you're pasted modern tech onto kind of an age film.
Like I've said before with David, is the fact that this is it's a good movie. It definitely, Rian Johnson made it his own. It didn't feel like any of the episodic films that came before it. To me, it kind of felt, this is what I thought the standalone movies would feel like, because it broke a lot of those Star Wars rules. I think because this is the path that Disney and the storytelling group have taken us along and deviated from what maybe Lucas's original path for 7, 8, 9 is, it's a good movie, and for that trilogy, it's good. But for me, I'm going to give it like a 7.5.
I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. I'm with Jesse on this.
And that's fine. And that's fine.
Rotten Tomatoes currently has it as an audience score of 56%, and the box office numbers are in.
It's like what, 450 million worldwide?
450 million worldwide, 220 million domestic, which beats the 200 we're hoping for.
I would argue, I've seen it 2 times now. You guys have seen it 3 times. I noticed a lot more details. The little things, the star compass, which is something that you'll see if you play the campaign for Battlefront 2. There also appears to be...
Beat that in 10 hours. It was awesome. There
also appears to be some sort of, what I'm assuming potentially a piece of Vader's lightsaber, because we see a red kyber crystal. We see a crystal, and it is shaped like the crystal that we see hanging out of the end of The New Hope, Luke's lightsaber at the end of this movie. So, again, speculation. That's my theory on it, that Luke did have, in fact, in possession his father's lightsaber.
It was on a necklace, right?
Yeah, it looked like it was had been made into a necklace of some kind. But, it kind of makes you wonder, well, is that going to play a part in this next movie kind of thing? I think potentially, if Kylo might know where Luke is or has figured it out, kind of thing, he might go and check it out.
I think no matter what, I think episode 9, we stand to have a lot of excitement. Like we touched on with the Knights of Ren, and where it really develops with how they solve the Leia conundrum with Rey.
Really
see what that time jump is. We get 2 years now to speculate on it. December 2019. So just like where we were 2 years ago, we watched The Force Awakens and go, oh, I can't wait to see what they do with The Last Jedi. Yep. We're back in that same seat now.
Quick shout out on the YouTube to Don, Comic Book Junkie, JLS Comics, and Rebel Comics. Thanks for joining us. And Randy and Comicaholics and Alex, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I like Comicaholics always giving Alex some trouble in the chat because he gives this 11 out of 10. And they say, he always overgrades his books. But that's not the case with CG, because CGC always undergrades your books, right, buddy? I think that's my thing. Is I think it is a really good movie for this trilogy storyline. I wanted to see it like 15 years in the past. Like, I wanted to see a younger Luke kick some ass, rebuilding the Order, and then see it fall apart. I didn't want to see Mark Hamill living as Luke after the fact. Like that's the I'm giving this.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. They gave him a good ending, and that's the one thing I am thankful for.
He got a good ending.
Took him out a good way, and we're gonna get him back at 9 as a Force Ghost. I think that's a given.
Yeah,
he's back as a Force Ghost. I'd like to see. I don't think we get Yoda again. There are a lot of people pushing for an Anakin Skywalker Force Ghost.
God, I hope not. But Luke needs to fulfill his promise to Yoda that he'll take care of
Right.
Rey and not fail her like he failed Kylo.
I mean, that's the thing is, Yoda basically showed up and essentially schooled Luke.
Yeah.
About what it's like to be a master.
Right.
And even though Yoda's been dead for at this point,
Luke still has a lot of learning.
Years.
Luke still has a lot of learning.
So yeah, I think I would like to see Mark come back to some extent.
Well, he's on the cast list.
So,
he's coming back.
So is Andy Serkis.
I can't wait. It's going to be good, and you know what I gotta say? This was great. This conversation.
It could go for hours. Honestly.
We could go for hours. We might have to have a part 2, but this live stream, we gotta wrap this thing up.
We've been going for 2 hours.
And we gotta say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this live stream. We've had some really exciting conversations right before we started recording of how we think that we can take our episode production and bring that to the live video very quickly. And that's very exciting to have those talks, and it's exciting to just be able to go live like this, because even though we don't have some of the graphics, well, it's still our set, and it's still us, and it's still you. And we're finally able to interact with you. Want to say thanks to everyone on that live stream. And there were like 7 or 8 points. I saw Randy was posting some stuff. What was he talking about?
It was me replying to everything he was saying on our Facebook.
Okay, so what were like some of the, what were the things that
he didn't like the plot line with Finn and Rose, completely unneeded.
We had agreed with that.
I like what you said. I like Rose as a new character. I just kind of felt that what was there was maybe a little lack.
Yeah, I wonder if that could have been integrated on the cruiser.
Yeah. He didn't like that Rey's parents were just nobody. He likes the concept that anybody can be force sensitive. But the big question was left unanswered and just kind of dumb to him.
Randy had like 6 or 7 very well articulated points on the Facebook page. He commented below ahead of time, and I'm glad that we were able to get those answered in the chat. And I'm glad that Randy was able to participate with us on it. He's a buddy of ours for back in St. Louis. But just thankful that everyone was able to be involved with this conversation. And yeah, Randy, I'm with you on a lot of those points, man. It was good, but it just wasn't exactly what we expected. But that's okay, because you know why? Every fan has an opinion. All 3 of us, we differ on certain things. I was watching a guy by the name of Larry, Rebel Comics here on YouTube. Has a great channel. He's a comic book writer, Niobe. Cool storyline. He made the comment about, hire me, put me on set. I'm a fan. I know what the fans want. And I said on there, it's like, you know what you want, and I know what I want. Like, I know I'm being at times in this stream curmudgeon-y, and I want badass Luke. But you know what? It doesn't work that way. Every fan has a different.
Put me on set, you know what would be there.
There would have been nothing but Mandalorian armor. If Jesse was in charge of Last Jedi, it would have been like the Mandalorians would have returned and saved the Resistance.
Not gonna lie, I was scouring this movie for any hint of Boba Fett, any hint of even just any Mandalorian, like especially on the Canto, and that's.
Alex the Comic Hoarder is trying to start the hashtag We Want Hayden.
No, we don't.
In the chat.
Nope.
So that's what he wants.
Negative.
Yeah. Alex says there would be 2.5 hours of Boba Fett if Jesse had involvement.
I don't need Hayden Christensen to ruin another trilogy for me by making an appearance.
Hey man, maybe J.J. Abrams directing could help the acting out.
I would still argue that was more of a director/writing issue with the prequels. I've seen some other movies of his where he was actually, I wouldn't say amazing, but
Jumper.
I would say that,
the one where he builds the house with the girl?
I actually saw a movie that he's like a father and his son gets, they're like going on a hunting trip and they witness like this murder and everything. It wasn't that bad kind of thing, so.
I think if we got Hayden back, if it was done right, I could be into it.
Yeah.
Because Hayden is canon Ghost Force Vader. Yeah. Okay, I think we gone through the chat. I want to say thank you to everyone who commented. If we didn't get to your comment on this live chat, we are about to end this video. Comment afterwards. We will go in and we'll comment later tonight and respond to you. Is there anything else that we're missing? Okay.
Nope. Thanks, guys.
I think we're pretty solid. Hey, and don't forget, our 300 subscriber contest is going right now on our channel. You can find that video on our YouTube channel right now. We're giving away almost $100 worth of free stuff. And all you have to do is make a video and tell us why you like Star Wars, essentially. You'll find all the rules on the video. I'm going to get up now, and I'm going to turn off the video. You guys can just sit there. But because we're doing this basically off of a camera phone, I have to come up here and the video like this.
I still want to eat a pork.
No.
Wait. We're going to skewer some porgs after this video. Eat them like chicken. You don't like that? This is the last awkward 10 seconds of this video.
Stop staring at me.
The set, and now it's me. And then operation is locked. Rotate the device back.
Sideways.
Oh,
You're
well.
sideways.
We're done. We're done. Good night, everybody. You guys rock.